Tonight on the Money programme, books have become big business. But who are the winners and the losers in the pursuit of bestseller success?
Like the rest of the media, this once genteel world is going through a huge transformation, with constant advances in technology and an increasingly competitive market.
Books have been cheap, they're fabulously discounted, they'll be delivered to your house the next day. What's not to like?
I'll be seeing if the celebrity books that now dominate bestseller lists are essential for the rest of the business.
How much did you pay, Paul O'Grady?
7 figures, loads.
7 figures?
Yeah.
I'll show how cutthroat price wars have changed the entire industry.
The booksellers now have a great power because there is a shortage of book space. The booksellers will almost dictate to the big publishers what we can sell, what we sold last year. We reckon we can sell it this year.
How to get into print and how not to.
Enclose a copy of my debut novel, which cleverly mixes art, cooking, sex and violence in an appetising, easy-to-read package. Well, there's the blurb for the paperback.
And look at the pressures on publishers to pay to get their books noticed.
And it can vary anything between, say, £1,500 up to, in total, across all retailers, as much as £100,000 for a really big title.
And I look at some unlikely forces behind title success.
Hi everyone. Publishers tend to follow trends too much. So if there's been a book that's been successful, then they'll go out and they'll look for the next book that's exactly the same.
We're a nation of avid readers. According to market research by Nielsen, last year we bought over 200 million books. I want to find out how publishers, agents, authors and booksellers have adapted their trade and brought about this boom. For many of us, the most obvious sign of the revolution in the literary world has been the rise of celebrity books. 5 of last year's top 10 bestsellers were celebrity books.
In the countdown to Christmas, the celebrity market explodes, but the stakes are high. Each year, some publishers can make huge losses if they don't get it right.
Patrick Jansen-Smith has been a successful publisher of biography and fiction for 30 years.
Each sort of year that something goes for a record sum. I mean, the Dawn French, for instance, probably went for about £2 million. I can't remember the exact number, but it was around that. Now, Dawn French is doing extremely well on the bestseller lists at the moment. But how many copies do they have to sell before they can recoup that advance?
Yeah.
They may never recoup that advance. They might make a publishing profit and certainly a contribution to overheads. But, you know, this bar keeps raising every celebrity biography that comes along.
Transworld is one of the UK's largest publishers of fiction and celebrity books. Last year, managing director Larry Finley took a punt on Paul O'Grady's autobiography.
So how much did you pay, Paul O'Grady, for this book? Because it is a matter of public record, isn't it, advances? I mean, they're talked about a lot.
They are, 7 figures, loads.
7 figures,
Yes.
right.
A lot, but he's going to generate more than that.
But it's not the case with everyone.
No, indeed. We luckily, fortunately, haven't had a really big expensive mistake for a long time, but they do happen. Without naming names, but I mean, every year they happen. There are too many books chasing the same Christmas present hound, and some won't work.
The celebrity books, I mean, they take an enormous amount of effort and energy. You've got to crawl around those massive egos, for one thing. They take up a lot of money. And they take up a lot of marketing spend, which is more money. They take up a lot of bookshelf space, which is more money. And the one that works will produce hugely different figures to those 10 that don't. And I think the energy that goes into that total 11 is detrimental to the publishing business as a whole.
Celebrity books not only have an effect on the economics of the book trade. Many, like Faye Weldon, believe they're affecting what's being published.
It's like the BBC, I suspect, that, you know, a lot of money goes to a few people and that keeps a lot of other good people out. Of course, it happens everywhere. If ratings are what you're worried about, if money and profit is what you're worried about, rather than sort of quality or history or standards or whatever it is bound to happen. Things will go downhill.
It may be that the person who buys deeper into the catalogue will not find the books further on cheaper. In fact, they might find them a little bit more expensive in compensation for the cheapness of bestsellers. So in that way, perhaps some consumers are not winning on price, and certainly over time there is a danger that range will suffer.
Celebrity bestsellers may have their critics, but others say that these titles help support less commercially appealing books.
Well, if everybody bought Katie Price, then that would matter, clearly. But the point is that some people are buying Katie Price and some people are buying Ian McEwan. And Katie Price's profits may well be helping the publisher who publishes Ian McEwan, you know, or the next Ian McEwan. The next literary author may well be being subsidised, ironically, by Katie Price's profits. So, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing at all.
Because you're paying such big advances for celebrity biographies, does that mean that the pool of money that's available to break new authors is reduced?
No, genuinely not, actually, because they tend to be the books that generate the most income for publishers and for booksellers, but from a publishing point of view, unless, I guess, if you have several expensive mistakes in a row, we haven't had, but if you don't, if you've got the books that are generating big income, you could say the opposite's true, that you've got all the more money to spend, perhaps, on fiction.
The book trade has become no different from any other retail sector, with its price wars, aggressive marketing and discounting.
The thing that strikes you is that there's not one of these that's selling at full price. Now, these are the books that you know you're going to sell, so why are you discounting them?
Well, it's because from our perspective, it's important that we offer our customers as strong an offer as they can find anywhere else. So I think it's really, really important that anybody shopping in a Waterstones can feel confident that the prices they're paying are as competitive as they would find anywhere else.
The average price of books has actually decreased in the last 7 years.
There's certainly been a reduction in the price of books. You know, a really good example of that would be an author like P.D. James, where we've seen her titles that she sold in, say, 1994 in hardback would typically have been £15 or £16, and her latest title this year is typically around £10.
Cheap and widely available books may be great for the consumer, but the battle for market share has put enormous pressure on the once sleepy world of publishing.
A £20 book that would once have sold to a retailer for £12 a copy will now sell for more like £8, taking a huge slice out of publishers' profits.
In a world where price is considered to be king, and very often is in terms of attracting consumers, there's a huge amount of pressure on publishers to give discount. And book publishers have to give more discount than they want if they want to see their books sold.
Now, Britain's biggest bookseller, W.H. Smith, says it'll cut the prices of at least 100 of its top-selling titles from Sunday, after today's effective collapse of the net book agreement known as the NBA.
Until then, the sale price of books was fixed under the net book agreement. It meant retailers had to sell at a price recommended by publishers. In 1995, the agreement collapsed.
Melancholy notes.
The new free-for-all is what the supermarkets like Asda have been waiting for. They're already pledged to sell the cheapest books in Britain.
The supermarkets saw it as an area where they could apply their discounting skills. They felt that it was a part of the market that had been overprotected and that they could come in and pick up, you know, some good profits straight away by just discounting and putting books in front of people.
It was the first time that the full commercial pressures of the market were introduced into the book trade.
The very morning after the netbook agreement went, I got a phone call from a publisher saying, we've got a chance to get X author's book into a supermarket. They'll take 10,000 copies, but only if we can supply at a minuscule price. Will your author take a lower royalty than is in the contract? It's a compromise, and it feels like a bit of blackmail.
They don't take the same range. They sell the bestsellers extremely successfully, very aggressively, and that has made it more difficult for those high street retailers who have to compete with that first and foremost.
The booksellers now have a great power because there is a shortage of book space. The booksellers will almost dictate to the big publishers what we can sell, what we sold last year. We reckon we can sell it this year. Give us more of these books, and we will even tell you what jackets you can have.
During the same period as the old pricing mechanisms were swept away, the book trade faced another revolutionary change.
Amazon and the rise of books on the internet has had a massive impact on the book world. For the online customer, the sheer choice is wider than ever, giving more traditional retailers a run for their money in terms of both price and availability. So why was the book industry identified as being the sort of market that a company like Amazon could capitalise on?
One of the things that's special about books is the incredibly broad range of books that are published every year, more than 100,000 in the UK alone. But the fact at the same time that so few shops have enough shelf space to offer that range. So in books you have this unique situation where there are hundreds of thousands of books that customers would like to find, but they can't find it in their average high street shop. And that really was the basic idea behind starting with books, was to offer that entire selection.
Like all big retailers, Amazon pushes to buy books from publishers at the best possible price.
To what extent do you think it's justified, this idea that discounting has perhaps gone too far, that actually the industry itself can't sustain discounting on this scale for much longer?
Well, first of all, I'd say that Amazon's discounting is very much in line with what other large retailers do. So I don't think we're talking about a uniquely Amazon phenomenon. Price is important to customers.
But one of the UK's biggest publishers, Hachette, has recently refused to supply their books at the discounted price requested by Amazon.
How worried are you that there is perhaps the odd sign here and there that publishers are beginning to say no?
We can't comment on any specific commercial negotiation. Sometimes commercial negotiations can be tough, but at the end of the day, we've always been able to find a way to work with publishers and all of our other suppliers in a way that works for all of us. I'm sure that'll continue to be the case.
Aggressive discounting by the major retailers has left smaller independent bookshops simply unable to compete, so they've either had to specialise or shut up shop.
Since the netbook agreement ended in 1995, nearly 500 independent bookstores have closed down.
The one thing that's proved the most challenging thing is not necessarily Amazon. It's not the chains, because obviously the chains were there when we agreed to do this in the first place. It is the supermarkets.
Right.
And the main reason for that being is that they obviously can use a book and do use a book as a loss leader.
Independent bookshops can't compete on price, as they can't buy in bulk.
What we tend to do is, instead of piling high and stocking cheap, we go for range and diversity. We tend to have single copies of most things, and we try and find those little areas where we can be a little bit different.
The rise of the bookstore chains, supermarkets and internet retailers means a small number of book buyers have become all-powerful.
One had the sense that now the kind of tail was wagging the dog to some extent, that the power of the distributors and retailers worked its way back into publishers' perceptions of what they should be doing, who they should be publishing, how they should be marketing, and who they had to please, really. You began to understand from an author's point of view that if the buyer at Waterstones didn't like your book, then you could be in deep trouble.
But it's not just the buyers and the large bookstore chains who now hold the power in the book trade. Television, and one show in particular, has also had a dramatic effect on the industry.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us.
The Richard and Judy Book Club has had a phenomenal impact, and it's created several millionaire authors. Behind the show is the most powerful woman in British publishing.
TV executive Amanda Ross started the book club in 2004 on Richard and Judy's afternoon show.
Because if you think about most book programmes before, they've been in darkened rooms, late night slots, lots of very intelligent, esoteric people sitting around a table and discussing books in a language, frankly, I didn't understand quite a lot of the time. And I don't think that's a way of interesting people or motivating people or inspiring people to read. Whereas we have Richard and Judy, who are two incredibly accessible, celebrities who speak in a normal, everyday language that everyone understands.
So how do you go about choosing the books that go onto your list?
I'll pick a book up, I'll read a few chapters. If I like it, then it's through to the next stage. If I don't like it, I tend to read more of the books that I don't like, just to make sure that they should be pushed out and not go through.
I think the Richard and Judy Book Club is immensely clever. And it picked up a model that was very, very clever in the States on the Oprah Winfrey show, which is, what it does is it unites a high book buying demographic, which is, you know, slightly older women, with books in a prime time marketing context. I mean, you know, so it's going to work, and it does work.
One of the first novels to benefit from a Richard and Judy recommendation was Joseph O'Connor's Star of the Sea.
Well, we'll find out now what Bob and Bonnie made of it. Might as well lay on the line that we made of it. We absolutely loved it. What about you?
Which is absolutely gorgeous.
And it's not at all overwhelming. It's totally accessible, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, it's like a normal book you'd pick up at the airport, but it's true literature.
What happened after the programme was that on the very afternoon, we were looking at it on Amazon, for instance, and it just started climbing and climbing and climbing within hours of the programme until it reached #1. It sold wildly in excess of 500,000 in this market. He might not have got those sales figures without the push of the Bob Geldof recommendation. I was never a particular Geldof fan, but my God, I am now.
Because of the phenomenal impact on sales of a Richard and Judy recommendation, it's become highly sought after by publishers.
I mean, I have been asked to go to lunch with Amanda Ross and kind of butter her up by the publishers, not necessarily in any hope of my titles being selected for the Richard and Judy Book Club, but purely on the basis that maybe I could help the common weal by, you know, I mean, maybe I should offer to go around to Amanda Ross's house and shampoo her stair carpets, or kind of pick her kids up from school, or mow her garden. You know, maybe that would be helpful for, you know, and there is a sort of atmosphere of that in the trade, that anything we can do for Amanda Ross would be a good thing.
If books are to make maximum profit, then it's important to secure foreign sales as well. Book fairs like this one in Frankfurt are where many of the deals are struck. Exports make up almost 40% of British publishers' overall book sales, according to the Publishers Association.
Nowhere is the commercial side of the book industry more obvious than the Frankfurt Book Fair. British titles are in big demand here.
Agents and publishers from all over the world meet at the fair to buy and sell the foreign rights of their books to the highest bidders.
Is that classic crime or more crime thrillers? Classic crime.
Literary scout Jane Southern tips off foreign publishers about the British books they should be looking to invest in.
The book fairs act as a focus for the year, one in April or March and one in October. And the agents will gear the delivery of manuscripts for those times, so they'll try to encourage authors to deliver the month before.
Jane has to be aware of all the new books being published back home to make sure her foreign clients don't miss out on the next big thing.
Sometimes something pops up on day 2 or day 3. The Horse Whisperer was one from many years ago which popped up on the Friday. Nobody'd heard about it before, and there was a huge kerfuffle as everybody ran about desperately trying to find information, getting the actual physical paper copies so that their editors could read them. But this year it hasn't been so bad.
For agent Carol Blake, Frankfurt is a crucial part of her year. Every half hour for the full week, she has back-to-back meetings selling the foreign rights of her author's latest books.
We've taken a lot of offers. We've done deals for a very wide range of authors. In some cases, repeat deals in the same country. You know, the new manuscript has come in, and yes, the Dutch publishers bought it, the Brazilian publishers bought it. In some cases, new languages for some authors, and that's always successful.
A reason independent publishers struggle to get their books noticed is that they don't have marketing budgets like the big houses. Luke Brown, editor of independent Tyndall Street Press, is at the Frankfurt Fair for the first time.
As a small publisher, it's hard to get your books noticed because you're competing with the kind of marketing might of the giant corporations, and your direct competitors aren't smaller publishers. They're the big giants that you're competing for the same spaces in the bookshops as them, which means you have to be, without the same marketing budgets, you have to be more inventive, more passionate, and try and go for the books that the large publishers miss because they don't see them as easy marketing opportunities.
One of Tyndall Street's books is the prize-winning novel What Was Lost. It sold over 70,000 copies, much more than expected.
We normally print about 2,000 copies, and it's very hard to sell literary fiction, and we're happy if we sell those. We're always looking to sell more. But the prizes just take it into a completely different dimension, really, and we can start going to the supermarkets and asking them to stock. It opens huge amounts of avenues and just creates this huge awareness of the book.
Tyndall Street's decision to publish has been vindicated by the high sales. But for the author Catherine O'Flynn, it's especially gratifying, as she was told that the book lacked obvious commercial appeal.
My agent sent the book out to 5 publishers, and they were all major publishers, and one in particular I remember said incredibly nice things about the book, but very regretfully was saying that they weren't going to publish it because they couldn't really see how it fitted in with sort of any particular genre or publishing pigeonhole, and that was going to make it a really difficult sell in the commercial climate that they felt was prevailing then. And so I suppose I just found that really disheartening, that even if you managed to find an editor who really liked the book, it still wouldn't necessarily get published.
I think nowadays you think very differently about what you're going to write. You wonder if it will sell. You are conscious of the market that you are selling to. You may try to ignore it, but you would be a very impractical person if you ignored it totally.
In this increasingly competitive marketplace, what are agents looking for? Agent Carol Blake is sent up to 50 manuscripts a day.
You know quite soon when you haven't got something good. Completely mad letters suggest completely mad people that I quite frankly don't want in my life, so I can reject those quite quickly. And close a copy of my debut novel, which cleverly mixes art, cooking, sex and violence in an appetising, easy-to-read package. Well, there's the blurb for the paperback. I mean, the chances of me taking on an author from one of these lists is very, very slight, but I carry on reading them because if you read something where you can't get the story out of your head, you know that author's got talent, you love the story content, and you think you might be able to find other people in the industry who feel the same, then it's worth a punt. I mean, I'm always optimistic. I think I'd stop if I wasn't.
The cost to publishers doesn't stop once the rights to the book have been bought. The success of a title can boil down to how prominently it's placed on the shelves in a bookstore.
Can you sort of give a rough idea of quantities of how many more books a publisher would sell by putting them into 3 for 2? So, for example, if Little History of the World wasn't on one of these tables, how many fewer would it sell? Do you have any idea?
Well, clearly it will depend on the title and what else is happening with the title at that time.
But is it like can it double sales?
Oh, it can do far more than that. It will run into hundreds and potentially thousands.
Waterstones insist books are selected for a place on a front-of-store promotional table on merit.
Once we've decided that we think it's a book that's worth promoting, then there is a small marketing fee which simply covers the cost of marketing the book and then allows us to spend all of our effort and all of our time in selling as many of the books as possible.
Are you able to tell me what that small marketing fee is?
No, but I can assure you it is very small.
Right. It's not just a tale of zeros.
No, it's definitely not a tale of zeros.
I'm sure the publishers won't think it's small. In terms of getting one of your books onto the promotional tables of a big chain bookseller, the sort of sweet spot, the place where it's really going to catch people's attention, what do you have to do?
Hey.
Right.
Well, submit. I mean, there is a selection process, and they're always oversubscribed, so publishers will submit a number of titles, of which a certain portion will get chosen, and then we pay. So there is a payment element, and it can vary anything between, depending on the level of the promotion and the level of the retailer, say £1,500, up to, in total, across all retailers, as much as £100,000 for a really big title. There's a lot of money just to get the book selected, to get it the prime display space, and it usually works.
Not all promotional tables in stores cost money.
Well, this is a table that's been organised by the store, and it's really all about Yorkshire and Leeds, which is obviously where we are. And it's a mix of titles that aren't discounted, a few here that are in the 3 for 2 campaign, but none of these books are on this table by virtue of anything we've done with the publishers, and indeed this is a table in front of store along with many others, and there isn't any marketing support costs associated with it.
After years of upheaval, the traditional book world has been transformed. With sweeping changes brought about through advances in technology, the advent of tougher competition and exposure to full pressures of the market, many are clear about who the winners are and who has lost out from the revolution.
The whole industry has become more mass market and has orientated itself more towards mass market ideals, mass market ideas, and therefore I think a lot of things that don't operate in that way, literary writers in their mid-career, serious non-fiction, these things have got pushed down the ladder of priority.
But the fact of the matter is, if you're presented with a limited range of titles and they're being pushed very strongly, then it takes a kind of, it takes a sort of very kind of bold spirit or inquiring spirit to deliberately step aside from that and do something else.
Much of the profit from publishing is being concentrated into fewer and fewer bigger players.
I think the winners are the big commercial houses, the big multinational conglomerates. I think the winners are most certainly some of the big book-selling chains. I think the people who've lost most are possibly the independent booksellers and the authors whose career have been brought to a stop prematurely early because they haven't produced a bestseller.
While the losers may not have lost as much as they think, like any losers, they like to moan that we've lost terribly. And I'm talking now about authors, about independent booksellers, about publishers.
As the volume of books we buy grows, industry figures show that the number of titles published remains the same, suggesting that variety in the book market is not falling. While some believe serious literature and other books are suffering, very few dispute that readers are benefiting in many other ways.
The person who's winning in the main out of all of this is the consumer. The consumer is enjoying a boom in the availability of books, extraordinary range of books published every year, an amazing wealth of places where you can buy books, and extremely good prices.
The market is better reflecting now the tastes of the entire population rather than an educated elite who went to bookshops. That educated elite are still going to bookshops and buying books, but loads of other people are buying books now who weren't, 10, 20 years ago. And I think that's a good thing, personally.
Books have been cheap, they're fabulously discounted, they'll be delivered to your house the next day. What's not to like?
Next week, Max Flint looks at the world of television and how this great British industry is going to survive in this digital age.
The changes we're about to see as we move from analogue to digital are as profound as the changes in television 40 years ago when we moved from black and white to colour.
And that's the same time, 7:30 next week. Coming up tonight, an 18-hour slog in the Pro Kitchen to get to the quarter-final of MasterChef next here on 2. And it must be Dress Down Thursday. Office workers get naked on BBC 3.